Come here now, girl.
Hello and welcome to WhatMap, your one-stop shop for everything workshop. I'm BonBonB and you're very, very welcome. Well, it's Monday, we're right back to the top of the workshop looking at the top performing map of the moment, and it's this one, a very nice looking Dutch inspired map. Somewhat iconic looking, from a creator that we've reviewed twice in the past, back in episodes of 1054 and 1060, where they only managed their maximum of 9 stars. Well, it just goes to show practice makes perfect, and we are definitely going up in the grades today. We'll follow that up in the second half of today's show with a fantastical map, a creator request over on Facebook. This map's requested, and another iconic strong map too. But before we do any work, I've got a little bit of play to do. That's right, playing clicker really does support the channel, gets me seen by more people and helps me grow a little bit more every single day. Thank you for your support. Today's first map is Takkebossie, a Dutch European by Sophrosyne. Okay, we're using the vanilla European theme, the realistic 1.2 LUT, and look at this little treat. When you load the map up, you are greeted by this scene. Literally, the very first thing you see is going to be that. I think that's the sweetest thing. Sophrosyne. I'm impressed. We've never had anything quite like that before, and we may never have it again. There's your start square anyway. Obviously the welcome home's in the start square. We've got a little roundabouts there as well. Very nice. Terrain heights, it's Dutch inspired, which means there are no mountains. Which is probably a good thing. There you've got your resources, a bit of field painting going on and a few blotches for some strong oil and ore reserves, that kind of thing. If you've got Sunset Harbour, you want to do some fishing, your fishing map is quite varied and quite strong. I like that too. Off to the workshop. What do we need? Well, it's a mass transit map. You will need mass transit for this one. We've got intersection marking tool and no controller are there. Traffic manager is also recommended. Quite right too. It does say near the bottom there, don't forget, you can leave a comment. Well, you can't leave a comment because unfortunately the comments are switched off. But tips and recommendations, maybe there have been some negative comments and perhaps I just didn't want to see them. And I don't blame you. If you get negativity. You won't hopefully get too much negativity today. For a start, look at how busy this is. We've got the windmills. We've got loads of everybody's favourite factories going on there. We've got a very neat double bridge going on here. No blue mantle either. I was sure we were going to see some blue mantle. No blue mantle on the map at all. Then we have some more. It's so busy. This is a very busy map. We've got more bridges there, and then bridges over here with the retaining walls using the vanilla keys as well. Remember, we're talking vanilla map here. And then a big old, a high old bridge, probably more than the big old bridge. Everybody loves a high old bridge. If you're going to get high, you've no better place to go than the Netherlands. So they tell me. I would not know. I would not know. I'm a good boy. Anyway, yes, mass transit today. So we've got these 4-lane roads. There's also a little treat for those of you that have some DLC other than mass transit. We'll see that a little bit later on. Not essential that you have sometimes you find these things when you're reviewing a map. You see something, go, oh, hang on a second, that's a different DLC. It's not game breaking, but it just adds a little bit more. So yeah, there's a little bit of an extra bonus to come in later on. It's not covered in the description in any way. A little sunken rail line there. We had this, we've seen this thing before. Again, plenty of room for extra lines through here, except for true realists will spot the pillars on the other side of this bridge, which does true realists will not like that at all, because you won't be able to remove the pillars and true realists will be very upset. True realists are a bind and we'll just ignore them. But yes, a couple of pillars on the underside of the bridge there that you might probably want to remove using Move It. Another big old bridge over here. This is more of a big old bridge than the previous big old bridge. A bit of height, a bit of width, nicely balanced as well. lots of nice things to say about this map. There are actually lots of nice things to say. There's so much on this map, there's a lot we won't be able to have a look at. So I highly recommend subscribing yourself for your own little look. Intersection marking tools being pretty nicely used today. I have no real grumbles. There is a tree there, you may have noticed, on the road. There are a few others. But let me talk about this, though. I'm liking the terrain work here. The terrain work with the trees, like hiding the terrain work. It's subtle, but it's very nicely done. Little things like that can easily be just like flown over without taking a second glance. And there's a few other bits down here we'll take a second glance at when we do some hopping around from scene to scene later on. But yes, it's a very complex map. Lots of field painting, lots of hedge lines, lots of little intricate areas as well. Of course, a few trees on the road here. There are a few spots here and there where you'll see some trees that are tucked underneath the road. Of course, if you're playing this vanilla, these trees will not show through. I'm just using anarchy settings to allow for them to show, but they won't show for you anyway if you know what you're doing. Little pre-built road or town area there won't suit for everybody, but it's not the main area, it's a secondary area. Of course you can always delete it, of course you can, but I'm showing it, it's there, and it's done to a high standard, so credit for that. Another big old bridge, which will come to this area again a little bit later on. We're heading down towards Start Square sort of territory now. Another intersection here leading off to the north side of the map. Big Trumpet Intersection, and again some good standards there too. One little thing that niggles me a bit is where we've got these trees to go running up the middle of the highways, it's not quite straight enough. I get using the prop line tool or the anarchy tool, whatever, just to draw those in a straight line. Can be a little bit, another big old bridge, too straight for some people. I can understand that, I would agree with you, but that was also a bit too wiggly. So for me, in my opinion. So yeah, there's always something to grumble about, isn't there? I do like a grumble. Big old Trumpet Intersection here. If we take the right here, this will bring us down into the Start Square. Start Square is very nice, very buildable as well. You'll probably want to be bulldozing the welcome home sign. Listen, I'm sure Sophrosyne doesn't care. They probably had much fun actually drawing that out. You want to delete it, why not? We have a little love heart in the middle of the roundabout in the Start Square. That's a very sweet little thing. Thank you very much. Oh, sending love, all that, I know. It's good. It's very nice work. And say Start Square, very welcoming, plenty of buildable space in here. Once you've removed the text there, it's just a nice buildable zone. What's going on here? We've got a sign here that is facing away from the highway. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm sure Sophrosyne will explain to us in the comments, because I don't know. I can get over it though. That's just being stored there for when the city builds. Anyway, look at this. Look at the complexity. Good rivers, good widths of rivers as well, and just plenty of things to check. Loving the wetlands up there in the top right, and the big lake going on there with the island in the middle. We'll check that later on. Now, just going to do a bit of jumping around. Now, down here, this looks a little bit janky to me, and I thought it was going to be a segment that was out, but it's actually a node. Let me show you this node here. That one there. Do that, and it just pops in. This may be, yeah, just a tiny little segment play there. Just a tiny weeny. I mean, I'm sure I could fiddle with that for hours and still not get it 100%. But yeah, just a little bit of work there. This is probably the most simplistic castle I've ever seen. Ooh, was a castle. Yeah, do you know what? I like it. Sometimes you don't have to overdo things. Like here with the field painting, I would like to see a little bit more in the way of fertile, with maybe one or two fields left out. This is completely the opposite way. I think we've got too much in the way of fertile, and what's been painted in is ore. Maybe just some non-resource fields in there. I'm never happy. It's one or the other, isn't it? Now here's one of these assets I was talking about from the other DLC. This is from Green Cities. This removes pollution from the rivers. That's a very nice little thing. If you don't have Green Cities DLC, you just won't have that set there. Catenary Chaos, a little bit of minor catenary chaos going on here with the catenaries just sat on the rails. No big issue. No big issue, is there? But over here, let me just show you I'm loving this bridge. Let me jump over here. I'm loving this bridge. Again, it just feels perfect. There's a lot about this map that I've just jumped over and ignored that is just perfect. There's also a couple of things I've forgotten to show you, I think. We've got this castle on the island over here, which is very nice. I'm liking this. Just nicely laid out. I can believe that is actually a tourist destination. And we have the pier, which doesn't quite clip into the ground enough, so you'd need a stepladder to get up there. Now, while we jump to the last location, I've got to say there are a couple of things I forgot to record on this flyover. I recorded quite late, actually, on Sunday night, so I apologise for that. The shipping routes and the water flow, quite happy with both of those. But there is one little problem. Oh, there's also this. This is also from Green Cities, if you have Green Cities. There's also a little water glitch out by one of the islands on the ocean side of the map, where there's a spawn point that actually drains the water from that point that I don't feel really needs to be there. I'm a bit upset with myself for not jumping to it. I actually have it saved into the memory, but it's an oops. It's an oops. But trust me, just over there on the left hand side right now, just out of view, is where that glitch is. Anyway, what do you think of today's first map? Is it a 1-star map? Is it a 5-star map? Is it somewhere in between? Your vote really does count. We use it at the end of the month for the Viewer's Choice Top 10. Remember to vote on the correct map. What do I think of today's first map? Well, it's very busy. It's very, well, pretty much accomplished. There's a few niggly bits with the field painting that I would like to see, just to make it a little bit more interesting. But all told, I think we are in 4 stars, and I'm going to go with the lower end. Quite like it though, nice design and very, very busy. Detailing, there are a few bits that make me want to just drag this down to 3 stars, but there's so much quantity of good stuff that I've got to go into 4s. I'm going to go towards the lower end, bottom end of 4 stars, but all told, the amount of quantity of work on here definitely holds it up into 4 stars. Gameplay potential, pretty playable, you know. There are those niggly bits that stop it from being super high, but I'm going to go just slightly above middle 4 on this one. Definitely lots of playability in it, and just enough things to keep you busy cleaning it up as you're going along. Takkebossie Dutch European by Sophrosyne, very impressive for your third map when you've never got more than 9 before. I'm going for 12 and the seal of approval. Nice work. Keep them coming. Right, we'll take a brief intermission. We'll come back for our second map after this. And so on to map 2 of 2. This one more of a fantastical map without being ridiculously fantasy. Plenty of buildable space and some good scaling on the mountains. The way the hills work with the flatland definitely is good to go. Creator we've not done before, not quite the first map, but we've never done them before, and requested over on Facebook. So ready yourselves for a volcanic delight. Today's second map is Volcano Delta by MarcPi. Pie. my very best Homer going on there. Let's have a little look at the start square, which looks very playable. Good looking river there as well. Again, recorded late on Sunday night, and I forgot to record resources. So here's your terrain heights, and the resources, you'll have to look at the window top right there. So plenty of fertile, and of course if you've got Sunset Harbour and you want to do some fishing, your fishing map looks like this. But yeah, fertile and ore on the map. Okay, off to the workshop. What do we need? Well, it's a mass transit map. You will need mass transit for this one. Mossy green modular rocks, Old Shipwreck, Coos Bay and Kiara Skuru Lut. It says only the highway intersection asset is required. Ironically, I'd say that's the only bit that isn't, because of course that is worked by nodes and segments, but it's always good to have these pre-built intersections linked in so that we can give a shout out to the original creators. So that's nice, but it's actually the one thing that you don't strictly need. In terms of the shipwreck, I forgot to go find it. Again, I was running a little bit late on this show, and so I was trying to get the viewer's choice recorded. I've got some technical problems with that as well. So yes, yeah, sorry, just missed a couple of things in today's show. Here's that intersection that you don't strictly need to subscribe to. It's a box about, I would call it, or a square about, something like that. Very nice. We have this is all elevated at ground level. You may notice that and we've got the intersection marking tool there as well, and some good intersection work, marking work on today's second map. So yeah, elevated at ground level, it's a design choice, I imagine. Of course, you've got to transition that down to ground level at some point, because you can't zone while elevated. A little bit of a bump and a glitch going on there. I'd say it's a jinky janky, but it's more of a vertical jinky janky than it was a side to side. Oh, we have an uppy downy. Yeah, that's what that is. Another one of those box abouts going on here. But yeah, what I really like about, obviously, I really like the theme and LUT combo, because Coupé, very sexy, very, very sexy indeed. But the sizes of the hills and the mountains, the amount of space that they take up as well. I mean, look, the elevation's a decent elevation without being ridiculously tall. And they take up a reasonable amount of the map without actually taking over the map, or it really sort of like getting in the way. It's just a good balance. Also, look here, we now actually are elevating with the highways. It's going to let the rail pop out from underneath. This is a very slick way of just releasing a rail line that is tucked between two highways, and I really appreciate that. That's very nicely done. Very nicely done. The bridges separate, and we'll come back to this area a little bit later on if there's anybody looking at something here going, oh, you've not mentioned that, BonBon. I will be, but we'll come back to it. So anyway, yes, elevated, coming down to ground level down in this kind of area here. We've got rail with just, let me just check for catenary chaos. No catenary chaos, that's good. Very good. Staying at ground level, going underneath the intersection there. This is just start square box about intersection, and that looks very enticing to play into. Not the most enticing, but enticing nonetheless. Okay. Possibly the lack of a little bit of sort of like some tree shapes in there would just add a little bit more playability or playability interest into that area. I also like the way that the rail nips over to the other side of the highway for no particular reason, and it does it very nicely, bringing us down into this kind of interesting buildable area. Again, I say interesting. Could be more interesting with some forest shapes just tucked in here. If it's forest shapes or field painting or something, would make this buildable. I mean, it's lots of buildable space and an interesting shape, but just lacking a little bit of inspiration, I feel, for someone like me that doesn't want to just do a grid city. If you want to do a grid city, absolutely perfect. Some really nice shapes of the mountains as well. Got the big old crater lake going on there. We'll come back to this area a bit later on. The Chiaroscuro theme is bringing out the cliffs very nicely. They've not been extra worked, but the shapes of the mountains are just making the whole thing just so I sing a little bit anyway. So I'll give credit for the shapes of the mountains, even though they've not been hyper worked in terms of working the textures. Now let's talk about the interests. This river has a bit of a problem. And that problem is mostly, if you have a watch of it, it's going to bear around to the right and around to the right and around to the right some more, whilst bearing around even more to the right. When you have a river that just bears on a long bend, what you could end up with are ripples, and this is a river with ripples, lumpy, bumpy ripples. We've seen it a few times. We've seen it quite recently as well on another map. We won't talk about that today. We'll just talk about this one. But yes, it's the same cause and effect going on here. There are methods of avoiding it, obviously just like changing the shape of the river, or a few people would suggest like, just put a lake in the middle here. If you put a lake, that absorbs the ripples and then you can then like continue. But yes, you can just see it's an ongoing process. This will carry on and on and on, and it's a little bit of a distraction, especially if you want to build up alongside that river. Seeing like a dry area emerge and then just disappear, and maybe a flood coming along immediately afterwards. So yes, ripply rivers are something that are best of it, but it's just that long curve, that long arc, that's causing that one there. Anyway, have we seen enough of this now? I think we have. We've come out of that. Thanks, BonBon. I think you could have edited that a little bit better. Speed editing. My weakest point. Well, maybe not my weakest. We've got the essential license. You'll see a few of these dotted around. One here up by the sandy cliff. We've got another one over here on Long Island. Now this one here has got a pier attached to it. Now sometimes you could say these piers are for fishing. I would say this is definitely so you can get to the lighthouse. Isn't she lovely in blue? The pier is a little bit high, a little bit high. If I switch the lines of terrain on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, about 14 meters of height there. So you're not going to be able to pull up there in a little rowboat. So that could be just adjusted a little bit, I feel. We've got over here, there's a castle. Ooh, it's a castle. I like the castle. I like the island. I'm not entirely sure I buy into it on the shape and style of the map that we've got. But everything about that, what we see there, without the rest of the map, is amazing. And the rest of the map is pretty strong on itself. It just doesn't quite marry up for me. Now these ridges, you see a ridge here, there's a ridge here, and a ridge. It's just slowly getting lower and lower and lower. I like them. I'm not sure they're quite working the way that they really visualized it, but they do work anyway. So I think that's a win. I think that's a win. We've also got some very nice beaches as well. Some beaches. Some have got cliffs in front of them though, sadly. We've got another essential lighthouse. So many essential lighthouses. There's another one over here as well. This one, let me just have a little look. We've got another pier down here. This one's a little bit high as well. Again, these could just be dropped down a little bit closer to the water's edge. But again, as a fantasy map, these things don't matter quite so much, one would imagine. This area here, this is a watery area that's just really full of character. I'm loving the character down here. We've got a few trees in the water, done with some consistency. I'm not sure I entirely buy into these as water dwelling trees. Some maps I can buy into. I'm not sure I really, especially the tall ones and the spindly ones. I think if we just stuck with the big bushy ones, they hide the sins a little bit more. So maybe if we just switched up the foliage in there, that would make these like swampy areas a little bit more believable as swamp areas. Got the green mossy rocks in use down here. Don't see much use of them on the map, but they are there. We've got some definite flooding down here. I think this is by design, or it wasn't by design, but they liked it so much they left it in, because that's pretty consistent like that, and it's pretty striking. I kind of like it. Oh, by the way, rocking and holding. There's one for the BonBonBingo players. Haven't said rocking and holding for a little while, but yes. So yeah, some possible deliberate flooding. Now this river I like. This is a good river, and importantly, it's technically the main river. This is going down the more playable area of the map, right down the middle of the map. It's an interesting shape, it's an interesting design. It's worked very nicely into the environment. The little fantastical little connection going up with the other river here is a neat little thing. And this is then going to feed us all the way up to the crater lake, which I think has been done quite well. We have a slightly splaying waterfall going on here, but I think it kind of works. I can buy into this on this particular map. Only thing I've never really been a big fan of are these water spouts on the side of the cliffs. But the detailing with the rocks and of course the cave there as well, just about. It's not to my taste, but I don't hate it as much as I've hated it on other maps. So it's a personal thing. It's not for me, but I can live with it. This is a little bit less so. We have the elevated at ground level roads causing little cuttings. We flew over this earlier. I said we'd be coming back to this area. Yeah, some zigzags going on there because elevated at ground level. Also, the intersection marking tool here, you'll notice these zigzags are going the wrong way. The chevrons should point towards the traffic, not away from. And that's something that you guys have taught me. There's also something else here. This particular road here. Recognise it? Well, you probably should. Except for, this one is the 4-lane 2+2 two-way highway from the Vanilla Plus set. Which means that if you haven't subscribed to it off your own back, it won't appear on the map. And this entire highway along here, heading up to everybody's favourite factory, will not exist. It's not game breaking. We also got, if you look down here, this is a Start Square intersection. We've also got the very same road again. It's a workshop road, not network extensions 2, not mass transit. These bits of road will be missing, but this is still playable. You can still attach your own roads onto the intersection and it will still be a very playable Start Square. So the map is not broken through missing that particular asset, but it is a little bit it's missing some features. Okay. Now, what do you think of today's second map? Is it a 1-star map? Is it a 5-star map? Is it somewhere in between? Your vote really does count. We use it at the end of the month for the Viewers' Choice Top 10. Will this be one of the top 10 maps of the month? Only you can decide. Hit the I button now in the top right hand corner of your screen, or the link in the description. It will take you to the voting page where you can vote for free with a Facebook, Gmail, Patreon or an Apple account. Don't forget to vote on the correct map. What do I think of today's second map? Well, aesthetically, it's pretty iconic actually. The Couspe theme works really well with it. Chiaroscuro Lut also works well because they're designed to go together. I like the overall aesthetics on this map. There's much more that can be done to make it really shine, but I think it's middle 4. That's my opinion. I'm rolling with it. I like this enough. Detailing, yeah, there's stuff to be done. I can't go into 4 stars on it, but it's interesting enough to be a high 3, and I'm going to go with that. Gameplay, very nicely playable. Again, I don't think there's quite enough going on in the Start Square plains just to make life a little bit more interesting, but and that lumpy water is a big issue as well for me. Let's go for a high 3. It's playable. It won't let you down if you stay away from the lumpy river. Volcano Delta by MarcPi. Really glad to see it. Really interesting shape of a map, and a very solid map at that as well. Keep them coming, Mark. Keep them coming. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, for commenting, for liking, and for subscribing. If you are still here, you are part of the 20 and out elites. That's right, no less. Use the words of the day in the comments. Score yourself some population points just for fun. I'll be back on Wednesday. And I'll also be streaming a little bit of Wreckfest tomorrow night. Join me at 9 PM UK time and we'll have a laugh in the chat. Thanks for watching. See you soon.